Access Channel 29, exclusive programming for Comcast subscribers.
Hello, welcome to Civil Discourse, a program sponsored by the American Civil Liberties Union of Greater Jacksonville, Florida. And I'm holding in my hands a study that was offered by the Jacksonville Community Council, a 16-week plus study of the entire community regarding reducing violence in Jacksonville, and particularly the murder rate. And in this study, it actually says this study was commissioned because Duval County's rate of murder per capita ranks highest in the state, despite the fact that other indicators of crime, including violent crime, have declined in recent years. The rapid increase in murders in 2006 added considerable urgency to this study by the JCCI, commissioned by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. I urge everybody to get a copy of this study. You can download it for free at jcci.org. And with me in the studio to discuss the troubling aspects of murder, and as you know, murder doesn't just impact the person who has met their violent death, but it impacts all of the family members of that individual, the family members of the shooters, the friends of the shooters. It is a considerable, horrible event that happens. And with me in the studio is a man named Ellis Curry. Ellis Curry is, as we term, an ex-offender. And somebody, if you've been in Jacksonville in 1993, you'll remember the horrible incident of Jeff Mitchell at Terry Parker High School. Ellis, you have an incredible story to tell. You've been through an awful lot. The Mitchell family has suffered an awful lot. But we're also coming out of certain things, and certain reconciliations have happened. I'm very happy you've taken the time. This is not easy for you, and I in no way want to try to glorify a horrible incident. And I'd like you to speak a little bit about your personal story, who you were then as a young boy growing up, and how you got involved in a situation that transpired with a young Mitchell boy.
Well, as a young boy, before I was incarcerated, I looked at life, very different than what I look at it now. I mean, I didn't take life serious then. I thought everything was a game, and most of all, I thought that I was invincible. Well, as far as nothing bad, really bad could happen to me, or, I would never really do nothing to end up spending the rest of my life in prison or possibly dead.
You were, when the horrible incident with young Jeff Mitchell happened, how old were you? Different accounts in the newspapers had pegged you at different ages, but how old actually were you at that time?
Yeah, I was 16.
16 years old?
Yes, sir.
And prior to that incident, were you accustomed to carrying a weapon, a gun?
Oh yeah. I mean, the mindset I had then, if I didn't have a gun, I wasn't a man, I mean, a gun, that was hip. That made me popular, in those days.
And so you carried a weapon with you, and did you use it? And if so, how did you use it?
I mean, a lot of the times, I mean, I never really had anybody, any arch enemies or nothing like that. I like to create them. I mean, I would pull guns on people in attempts to rob them, basically to install fear and to like boost my character up. Put in the community that, hey man, this is a young guy that got a gun, he don't mind pulling it, you better leave him alone, and he earned his respect, he earned his stripes in the streets, that type of negative thinking.
How in the world would you have come to the conclusion that carrying a gun and using it and brandishing it on people, let's say for a robbery, would give you respect? Tell me a little bit about that mindset, because there's a very different mindset from a lot of other people who I know. So talk about the respect, and how easy was it for you to perceive somebody disrespecting you?
You know, when you talk about, you know, what drove me to that, I mean, you know, I used to watch movies and old gangster movies, and I used to be thrilled of the respect that these gangsters used to get. You know, I mean, they was known for shooting, killing, and that type of thing, and they'll walk around their community with the utmost respect. And something in my mind drew me to that. You know, and I know it's a lot of other young people out there today, right now, in that same mind frame. You know, they think that that's what's hip and that's what's going on, and the community, some communities, feed into that, because I mean, the same way I saw it on TV, you know, I was actually starting to live that. When I walked the streets, they would respect me like that. They would you know, show fear and hey, how you doing, and that type of thing that I saw in the movies. I kind of saw the similarities in my life, and it just grew.
So carrying the weapon in your mind gave you respect. People knew. How many people in your community knew you had the weapon?
Shoot, just about everybody
Except everybody except
my major part of my family. Like my younger sisters and brothers knew. I let them see it, but you better not dare tell my mom.
She did not know.
Oh no, she did not know. I mean, you know, she saw me with a gun once. And my mom's the type of person that, you know, if you tell her something, she's gonna basically believe what you say until she see different. You know, she saw me with a gun, she questioned me about it. Son, I know that's not a gun. You're, oh no, Mom, that's just my friend's gun. I just had it at one time. I gave it back to him. I mean, I'll never have it again. You know, and it just brushed off like that. But people in my community, like other parents and their kids and stuff, you know, they knew it. I show it to them. I'd be like, hey, yeah, man, you know, this what's up, man. They come around here, we gonna straighten it. I got the whole neighborhood. See, another thing that you will be like, I'm protecting the neighborhood. I'm the neighborhood protector. I mean, all y'all are my family, and even though I got a gun, I'm underage. You know, if somebody messes with your child, I'm gonna protect your child, protect you, because y'all live in my community. This is my ground. This is my territory. You know, and they fed into that. They like that. You know.
And did you use the gun to do robberies, or did you? What else did you do besides just carry it? Did you ever fire it?
Oh yes, several times. I mean, you know, I had an incident with my stepdad. You know, I shot at him, and we used to shoot at other guys from other side of town if they come over in our neighborhood, and we would do the same to them. We would go over in their neighborhood, but mostly it was for like a fun type thing, because like I said, I had no really arch enemies.
Was there a disconnect between you and the reality of the gun and the real world trouble that weapons can bring if they're brandished in the wrong manner and they're used in the wrong manner? And certainly we know that the horrible what happened to Jeff Mitchell, you were there, you witnessed it, you were part of that. Is there a disconnect between that reality, that stark reality, and the fantasy that you see in the movies and the rap and the television and the music that you listen to? Is there a disparity between those two?
Well, that was the wake-up call. The Mitchell case was the eye-opener to let me know that, you know, these guns and stuff, it's not really what you think it is. It's not only fun, you know, and you is messing up the community. I mean, you messing up lives with this, you know. But it was too late after it was done. But, you know, after it happened, I suddenly realized that, hey man, this is not the right way. This is not really what I intended.
Now you were there. You did not shoot. You were not the shooter of Jeff Mitchell. Another man, a much older guy, was Omar. Is his name Omar? What's his last name?
Omar Jones.
Omar Jones, who is serving a life sentence right now. But the way I understand it, Jeff was sitting outside the library waiting for a ride to go home, and you and 3 others rode up and approached him, asked him for money. He didn't have any money, and then the shooter shot him in the leg or the side of the leg, and then again in the back of the head, and he died the next day. Horrible, horrible thing. And you were there. Did that seem real to you, or did this seem as it was playing out as another movie?
At first, I mean, you know, we had done that many times, and nobody ever innocent like that lost their life. So at first, it was just like a regular day, you know, until the point where he fired that gun. Once he fired that gun, that's when it all just, you know, a sudden confusion just shot in. Because this is not meant to happen. This was not the way it was planned. It's not the way I visualized this happening, you know. And
while you had fired a weapon before, you never shot at somebody specifically before. You personally have never actually tried to kill anybody before.
Not nobody of any innocence like that. You know, normally we had the mindset, if we go out and rob somebody we don't know, man, we're not gonna hurt that person, no. I mean, because they really never done that to us, you know. But like, if it's an incident, well, you know, we going through something with another guy in school or something like that, yeah, we will literally shoot at them. You know, and if we shoot you, then okay, I don't care. I mean, that was the mindset then. You know, like I said, I got to live up to this
and
movie
you weren't
character.
alone in this. This was happening. It wasn't just you. It was like you were doing this by yourself. There was groups of people, and this wasn't a gang either. This was a loose group of people. Correct? You called yourselves friends. You didn't label yourselves as a gang, did you? Was there a hierarchy or an organizational structure to your friendship?
Oh no, sir. It was no. I mean, you know, my mindset of gang is organized. You know, we got to do this certain way. We got rules. I mean, it wasn't like that. It was basically like, man, I'm your friend, you my friend, just a group of us. You know what I'm saying? If somebody mess with one of us, they mess with all of us. If one of us do wrong, we all do wrong. That type of thing. But if you want to stop, you can just go on and leave without any punishment or anything like that. So it was not a gang.
So Jeff Mitchell is shot. What do you do?
Well, when he first got shot, I mean, you know, I was shocked. Because like I said, this wasn't the way that it was originally planned to go. And once he got shot, I mean, the other two guys that was behind me, they took off running. And Mr. Jones was standing beside me, and I stood stunned for a minute like, whoa, what just happened? You know? And I quickly like, hey, he just shot this guy. It's time to leave. So I shook Mr. Jones, because he was standing there in disbelief just like me. And he was looking at me. I said, man, let's go. And he steady looking. So now my mind saying, hey, man, I don't care what he finna do. I need to leave. So I ran. I turned around and ran, but when I looked behind me, he was behind me. We made it back to the car, and of course, we made it home.
And of course, you were arrested shortly thereafter. The next day, I think. When were you arrested?
That following night.
The following night, and you were convicted. What were you charged with, and what were you convicted of?
Well, I was originally charged with first-degree murder and attempted armed robbery for the Mitchell case, and I had a VOP because I was on probation.
VOP is violation of probation.
Violation of probation, and that was for robberies that from years before this.
And you were convicted of what?
I was convicted of second-degree murder. They dropped it from first to second degree, attempted armed robbery, and of course the VOP.
And then you go to jail. While pending trial, you're in the county jail, correct?
Yes,
or
sir.
were you in the detention center for juveniles at that time?
Oh, no, sir. I was already certified as an adult, so I went straight to the county
jail. All right. I want to talk a little bit about what that's about. I also want to talk a little bit about what prison is like and the difference between the county jail and prison. And at some point, you're still angry, and you haven't made this light bulb switch instantly. You're a thinker. I mean, you've demonstrated that in the time that I've gotten to know you, but you have demonstrated at some point you realized that this is not the way to live a life. This is not the way to live your life.
Exactly.
Because people die your way who shouldn't be killed. All right, we're going to take a short break. I'm going to come back. I'm going to ask you about how you are now, your life in prison, how you gradually made your turnaround, and what we can do today in terms of stopping this horrible murder trend that we have in the greater Jacksonville area, greater Jacksonville. You're watching Civil Discourse. My name is Ken Hurley. Take a look at these messages. We'll be right back.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
In these turbulent times, let us not erode the liberties our country was built on.
Let it shine.
Larry Parker, National Honor Society student.
Patricia Stevenson, stockbroker. Hector DeSario, systems analyst. Driving while black or brown isn't a crime. If it's happened to you, call us at 1-877-6-PROFILE and arrest the racism.
We're talking with Ellis Curry. Ellis Curry is an ex-offender who was also a resource speaker at the JCCI study for reducing violence and murder in Jacksonville. Interestingly, to many, many people, Ellis Curry was invited to be the resource speaker by Glenn Mitchell, the father of Jeff Mitchell, who Ellis was convicted of second-degree murder in 1993. You were probably convicted in 94, correct? Because the event happened late in 93.
Yes, sir, it was in 95.
95 is when you were actually convicted. And then you went to the county jail and you stayed there while you were, the trial was happening. Was that, would you prefer to be in county jail or would you prefer to be in prison? Clearly, nowadays you prefer not to be in either. But between the two, can you describe them a little bit?
Well, you know, the county jail is a lot less violent. You know, I mean, basically, if you go in the county jail and you do something to somebody and y'all get into something, then that's just y'all. You know, well, more so in prison is not nothing like that. Mm-hmm. You know, prison is far more worse on the officers' way of looking at it, and also the inmates.
Mm-hmm. You say violent. I mean, were you expected to fight in prison? Is that the way of life? Did you have to fight to prove yourself? Were there going to be people that pick on you no matter what?
I mean, see, that is the tricky part about it, because you are at the mercy of the system. I mean, there are some institutions where everybody just do their time, you know, and then there are many where you got a lot of guys that like to nitpick and see, I just want to see how far I can take him, or what can I get away with him? Can I steal his commissary? Can I push him around? Can I, you know, a lot of institutions, they provoke that.
And did you fight back?
I mean, of course, I mean, because I already knew that, you know, if you let one guy get away with something, then everybody's going to start trying it, you know. But that don't, I mean, you're going to get the lesser end of the stick, you know. Sometimes.
In other words, at some point, everybody fights, is what you're saying.
Okay, like I said, you're at the mercy of the system. You know, you might get lucky and go to an institution where you got a lot of people that you have a little bit of time, and, you know, everybody basically mellows out.
How many prisons were you actually in? You probably were not in the same one for the entire time, right?
No, I was in, I was at Lake Butler first, which that is a terrible place on the officer's perspective. And then I went to Home CI in Bonifay. And then I went to Bay CI. And
you were in prison for 12 years, is that correct? And you're on probation right now, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you're gainfully employed?
Yes, sir.
All right. And while you were in prison, something happened. You had time to think. Talk about that a little bit. How did you come from what you were and who you are today? Because there is a distinct difference. What caused the difference, and how did you come upon the difference?
First of all, the change came, I regretted what I was in there for, first of all, you know, and then, you know, I thought about ways of how I could have handled my life or different from that, you know, and then I started watching the lives around me, you know. First, I didn't like prison. I hated prison, every day of it. I mean, I didn't have a happy day in 12 years that I was in there. But, and in living through that, it made me think that, man, you're gonna have to change, you know. It's either you change or you're gonna be like the rest of these older guys here that keep coming back and forth. You know, so what I did was I listened to a few of their stories, you know, and while they trying to upraise their character like I used to be, you know, with the gangster life and the drugs and the women, while they was doing that, I was taking it as if I don't need to do this or I'll be sitting here like this guy, a full-time loser, you know. And that inspired me, you know, to change. I got to change, man.
And so it was a deliberate act on your part. It was a conscious effort on your part, correct? It didn't just happen. You recognized how you were and how you no longer wanted to be that person, right? And you started to take steps to change. What did you do? Did you go to the books? Did you start to read? Did you get your graduate high school equivalency degree? Did you study more?
Yes, sir. Because when I went to to prison, I was freshly out of SLD. You know, I was a very slow learner in school, and I couldn't.
SLD is what?
It's slow learning disability.
Right. Okay.
You know, I was in that since the first grade, and I really didn't know how to read that good, but I could hide it well. You know, I mean, I didn't want nobody to know that, hey, I can't read, but you know, I mean, but after I got incarcerated, you know, I talked to a couple older guys, and they was like, man, you could turn this negative, you know, situation into a positive. Your life is not over. You're still young. You know, I mean, if you can't read, you know, go to school, man. Learn how
How
to
old
read.
are you now?
Now I'm 29.
29. All right. And you've been out of prison for how long?
For a year and a month.
Year and a month. And when you got invited to the JCCI study, it was by Glenn Mitchell, the father of Jeff. Talk a little bit about that incredible dynamic in the man of Glenn Mitchell.
Well, I first heard about Glenn trying to get in contact with me through my probation office.
Because really, you're not supposed to have any contact with the victim's family, correct?
Oh, yeah, that's exactly correct. You know, and that's what me and my probation officer talked about, and he was like, well, you know, if you want to get in contact with this man, you know, I can possibly have it approved, you know. And at first I was like, man, I don't want to look into the eyes of the man that I'm responsible for his son's death, you know. I mean, I knew that was going to be the hardest thing to get over. Anything after that I could pretty much handle, but looking into the eyes of a man, and you know.
You and 3 others. I mean, and you were not a shooter, you just were there though.
Oh, yes,
right,
yes,
right.
sir, but I mean, you know.
But still, right.
I'm the kind of person that I like to take it hard on myself. I don't really like anything happening in my life. I don't really like to point the finger and say, well, it's your fault, because, you know, honestly, if I wasn't there, I wouldn't have went through it. You know, I placed myself there. Nobody made me go. So, you know, but when I met him, you know, I stayed quiet a little while and let them do most of the talking, because I didn't want to offend nobody. I really didn't know exactly how he felt, but I quickly learned that, you know, I honestly feel like he got a very forgiving heart. You know, and I respect him for that, because if I was in his shoes, I don't think I'd be this quiet.
I'm not sure how any of us would react until we're in those shoes, but he certainly puts his belief system to action.
Oh, yes.
Which is what we need. We need action. It's one thing to have faith, and it's, you know, a lot of comfort for millions and millions of people, but we need action. We need to do something about the horrible murder rate in Jacksonville, and you were part of that problem. And now are evolving into part of the solution, which is very complicated. There is no one way to solve the murder problem in Jacksonville. There is no one magical answer. It's going to probably take the effort of the entire community. Now, I heard you speak on 2 separate occasions, and you offered some advice in terms of what you wished had happened to you in terms of intervention. You did not have a positive role model, a male role model in your life. You had no mentor who you could look to who was successful. You had people in your life, male role models, who lived the life that you were living, and that's what you emulated. Talk a little bit about what you think should happen. What can we do at this point as a community, and what do you wish we had done then?
You know, like I said at the Day of Faith, and I mean, and that's just my strong approach, because the only thing I could do is relate to back the way I used to be and what I wish somebody would have done for me. You know, I mean, the community, it has to get involved, because, like I said, you know, the police officers do not know who carrying these guns. They might know of some, maybe, but then you have to catch those guys. But still, you know, the majority of the young guys that's carrying guns today, the police don't know, because we're gonna hide it. When we see the police coming, we're gonna run. We're gonna throw our guns in the bushes or whatever it takes for not to let this cop know we got a gun. But I guarantee you that every young guy that's carrying a gun in this community is somebody in the community that knows. You know, my personal solution, you know, would be for, you know, you're going to have to either talk to this individual and see that they change their ways, or you need to turn them in. You're not being no snitch. You could be saving this person's life just as well as your own or anybody else in your community. You know, I mean, don't wait for something bad to happen to say, oh, I should have done this, or I should have done that. And another thing, that individual, yeah, he's gonna get mad. You know what I'm saying? That's why they have.
You would have gotten mad.
Oh, of course, I would have been very mad if somebody would have told on me. But you would have been saving me. you know, along with Mr. Mitchell's son's life and the 3 others that's still in prison. You would have been saving us. We would have been mad for a little while, but we would have never found out you told. They got the hotlines. We're not going to know who told, you know? I mean, you'll be actually saving, you'll save more lives than you will hurt.
Do you think there's this network of people in the communities who know of the people who have the weapons and who are able to speak out? Are those people there?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Why aren't they speaking?
Because they are afraid. Because like I was doing was installing fear in the community. Those guys are doing the same. So, you know, the way they feel like is, well, if it ain't doing nothing to me, they're not shooting me, they're not robbing me and my family, I'm not going to worry about it. It's not my problem. Let them deal with it, you know. But if they open their eyes and look at it lately, the bullets are not hitting their intended target. They're hitting innocent kids, you know, and it could be your kids just as well as it happened to the guy down the street or the woman down the street.
Well, the recent examples of 2 young, beautiful children killed, and even more than that over the years, is just too much for the community to handle. And I really think as a result of this study, I mean, the study is not just, okay, we're going to examine this, it also calls for action on people's part. And one of the things you're calling for, from your personal perspective, that you believe actually would work, is for the intervention of those who know of the juveniles carrying weapons, to stop them, to pull the weapons, turn them in, and then take the consequences of the anger of the child toward them. Isn't it better for that to happen, is what you're saying, than to ignore the situation?
Well, I mean, I feel like this here, you know, if you sneak and call hotline and tell on somebody, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not, chances are that person never going to find out you did that, you know?
Is prison a thing to aspire to? Jesse Jackson once said prison is a step, once he said it a lot, prison is a step up. How do you view that? Prison
is on that individual that you send to prison. For example, myself, you know, I took prison and I turned it to a positive thing. But believe me, you know, the majority of the guys that you send to prison are going to get with the old crowd of people who trying to build their character up off negativity, and they're going to feed on that, get new ideas, you know, and come back to the street and try those ideas. You know, like I said, you have some that go to prison and change for the better, but the majority change for the worse. You know, that's sad to say, but I mean, you know, that's what I saw.
And you chose not to do that. And that's what you're saying. You took it as a personal, responsible, active thing that you have to do to change your life. You weren't waiting for everybody else to change your life for you. You did it yourself, which is really the only way it can work.
Exactly.
So how can we turn what you've done and impart that story to other people and get others to do the same thing before we have the tragedy of a Jeff Mitchell and all the other murders that we have in town? How can we do that?
See, that goes back to the community again. You know, I mean, if I would have been, even though I have been to jail before, you know, and it was a little small tap on the finger. You know, I need to get that fear installed in me, you know, for prison, to make me say I never want to come here again. Yeah. You know, that's what, until you got to install that into a person, you know.
Ellis, I want to thank you very much for being here, very, very much. You're now gainfully employed as a welder at Moody's, I think.
Yes, sir.
And I hear good things about you. I want to encourage everybody to get this JCCI study and read it and take part in the solution. You can get this study free by downloading it at www.jcci.org. My name is Ken Hurley, and you've been watching a program called Civil Discourse, and this is a program sponsored by the American Civil Liberties Union of Greater Jacksonville, Florida. We'll see you next time. You have been watching a public access television program called Civil Discourse, sponsored by the American Civil Liberties Union of Greater Jacksonville, Florida. The ACLU is a private, nonprofit, nonpartisan membership organization. Our mission is to protect and advance the civil liberties and civil rights guaranteed by the United States Constitution, especially the principles contained in the Bill of Rights. We want to hear from you. Send us an email, share your views and opinions. If you're interested in appearing on the program, let us know. Friend or foe, we want you on the show. You may contact the ACLU in the following ways. Our telephone number is 904-396-5242. Our post office box is
5331 Jacksonville, Florida 32247, and our email address is aclujax@yahoo.com. My name is Ken Hurley. Thank you for participating in Civil Discourse.
Welcome to The Turning Point, a program about education and literacy on Florida's First Coast. I'm Dr. Gail Florence Kane, president of the DePaul School, and here representing the Literacy Council of Jacksonville. We are getting ready to come upon the election season, and I know education continues to be a very important issue in the state of Florida. So today I'm